All right, everybody, good morning. Welcome back to Between Two Viewers episode. I think this is 11 with Kate Marotz. Welcome, Kate.
Hi. Excited
Thank
to
you
be
so
here.
much for being here today. I appreciate you. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to chat with you because you and I are both terra sigillatas,
Yes.
terra, terra sig people. I think you do it better than I do.
I don't know about that.
Yeah,
It's just different.
I want I want to touch on that actually. When we get there, I want to touch on your. I'm trying to kind of refocus like on process with people because it is a ceramics thing, and I kind of get caught up just chatting and having fun with people. Before you know it, we never talked about clay.
Easy to do that, yeah.
And I think people that are watching this kind of want to learn and they want to know how you do what you do. So we'll kind of come
Sure.
back around to that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, blah blah blah. How old are you?
Sure. How old am I? I'm 33 and
Okay.
I have been a studio potter now for only a year and a half. I double majored in college. I went to UW Stout, so I have a BFA in studio art ceramics, and then I have a BS in art education. So I taught high school for 8 years, and
Wow.
during the last few years, I had planned to transition to being a full-time studio potter. So, I kind of worked overtime a bit, full-time teaching, and then, kind of developing a body of work and preparing to make that professional transition. So applying for a lot of shows, starting to get into like art festivals, working on networking, kind of all those
Yeah.
things so that it wasn't hopefully going to be too brutal of a transition. Because, leaving teaching is like, you can't go part-time with it. It's like you rip the Band-Aid off, you go from full-time to
Yeah. Yeah.
no
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going well, lots of learning, still growing pains and things, but no, I think it's been going well. Yeah.
That's a lot of work, and I do a little bit of research on everybody, obviously, when I want to talk to them, and yeah, you've been busy, and thank you for your service. Thank you for teaching our kids, by the way.
Yeah, it's important.
I asked how old you were because I think you and I have a close birthday. I'm a December birthday as well.
Yeah,
Are you a
yeah,
December?
Christmas Day is my
Yeah.
birthday. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding. I'm the 28th.
Yeah. Nice,
Yep.
just a couple days, yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
and
I
I'm
think teachers. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm in central Wisconsin, so Marshfield.
Gotcha. I think teachers are unsung heroes, to tell you the truth. I think the world, if teachers stopped teaching, the world would stop everything,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah, I'm really happy that I taught. Like, everybody's life could take a variety of paths, right? But I'm
Yep.
really happy with the path that I've taken.
Sure.
I'm really glad that I taught for those years, and I'm glad that I double majored and everything, but I'm really happy that I've made this transition. I just lost a lot of the joy that I had for teaching,
Yeah.
and
That's
I knew
that's
that I just
easier to
needed
do.
to leave. Yeah.
I'm getting to the point. I mean, I love my job. I run a golf course in the summer,
Yeah,
which is one of the reasons why I can't really make pots half the year. 7 months a year, I'm just too busy. I'm
for sure.
getting to the point in my life where it's become a resentment.
Yeah,
I go to work and all I want to do is be in the studio. It kind of bugs me.
absolutely. Yeah, totally get that.
So you got a BFA in studio ceramics, you said, was it?
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. Actually, talking to Mark Errol, he teaches at Valdosta State. A lot of schools are not doing specific BFAs anymore. They're just kind of doing a BFA in art, right?
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that. Yeah.
That's kind of a bummer, I would think.
Yeah.
So you were 2021 Ceramics Monthly Emerging Artist of the Year, weren't you?
Yeah, I was one of the emerging
That's
artists.
cool.
I was totally
That's
shocked.
cool.
Those were like the pots that were featured there, those were like the first of their generation, like the first of those pots. So
Mhm.
I really didn't
Sure.
expect to get into it. Like, I really kind of thought that was going to be just a practice run for putting together everything for the submission. In my mind, I was like, it's definitely not happening this year, but maybe next year. So
Yeah.
I was just like totally blown away. I kind of felt like maybe it was a mistake, and then I get an email like, whoops, sorry. So
Sure. And wait,
yeah,
you were on the
I was on
cover
cloud
too.
nine. No, I wasn't.
I thought I saw you on the cover there. Maybe not.
No, it was,
Yeah, that's.
I think Ariana Heinzen, I think is her name. Her work is amazing, but yeah.
I was in this one right behind me. That one right there. 2023, and it was the same thing. Like, I was actually sitting next to my wife. We were watching TV, and I was getting some messages, and I got a ping. It was somebody from Instagram, and she said, "Oh, I'm the editor from Ceramics Monthly." And as I was reading it, I just went, "Oh my God!" And I handed it to my wife, and she goes, "What?" I go, "I don't know. I can't read it." I was terrified, And it was really cool. Yeah, they're fun to work with.
Yeah.
But congratulations
Yeah.
on that. I just applied to that.
Thanks. Oh, yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks. It says people that have been working for clay for under 10 years, excuse me,
Yeah.
or 10 years and under. Technically, I've been doing clay for about 15 years, but I can only make clay half the year. So,
Right.
7.
Well, and if your work changes drastically, that's it's kind of like hitting the reset button on, years in clay almost.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually thinking about that right before you got on. Speaking of work changing, like I'm looking at, decorating pieces here, and I'm like, what am I going to do to this piece? I don't really have any set ideas. I'm constantly trying stuff. Maybe that's why every time I open the kiln, I don't like anything.
Yeah.
Do you experiment a lot?
I mean, I definitely like still play around, and I'm always kind of thinking about introducing new variations or new like specific objects. So in undergrad, I only threw on the wheel, and I was working with porcelain, and I was doing this like slip trailing, and very different body of work than what I'm doing now. So in that, kind of those years between that and then this body of work, there were a few years of just making like really weird pots, really bad pots, and just like working through tons of ideas and a lot of forms, and kind of taking ideas in my mind like almost too far, like over exaggerating certain qualities that I was interested in, just to kind of give myself somewhere to like pare back from. So yeah, I mean, I spent a few years where there were almost like no two pots alike, because I was just sort of running through
Trying to find it.
ideas. Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to one of the shows a couple of shows ago is Chris Long, I think. Oh no, it was Ron Philbeck. I was like, okay, so a guy like you who's really well known for a certain look on his pots, and he still experiments.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's what keeps it alive and keeps it real in the studio. Like I'll see somebody's pot on Instagram and go, "Oh gosh, I want to try that." Of course I'll try it and it'll look like crap, but I tried it.
Yeah, yeah. You
Like,
definitely
I have
learn
a
things
piece
from.
here next to me, that is like I started messing with it yesterday. I was checking out somebody on Olivia Tanny's page, and she makes these giant coil built heads. Just it's like a cartoony face, and I'm like, I'm gonna make one of those. So the problem is, it's like 35 pounds of clay, and it's only halfway done.
Yeah, that's a lot of clay.
I could make 50 mugs out of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of mugs, I was just perusing your website there. Your mugs are nicely priced. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think my prices are a bit on the low side. For all of the time that goes into them, but I also have like a really, really, really low loss rate. So I feel like I can kind of balance that out a bit.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That's one of the reasons I love Terra Sig is the low loss rate and knowing what's going to come out of the kiln. I know what's coming out when I put it in 95% of the time.
Yeah. No big surprises.
No glazing things to a kiln shelf, no glaze runs, no grinding shelves,
Yeah. That's not one of the reasons why I started doing Sig, but it was just like a huge upside of it.
Yeah, no, it's fun and it's easy. So let's talk about your Sig, speaking of process. So what ball clay do you use?
Most of my Sig is OM4 ball clay, and I use Pete Pinnell's recipe.
Yeah, that's me too.
And then I add different mason stains, or oxides. And then
Yeah.
my red color that I use, that is a red art terra sig, but then I do also add some crocus martis to it to just deepen the color a little bit, and it pushes it slightly more towards purple rather than orange.
The crocus martis
really
is
like
powerful,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah, I like it though. It's a good color.
That and cobalt seem to just take over everything.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
It's good to hear you say the red art thing. You know, I was at Ensika a couple of years ago, and I was watching Matt and Rose Katz talk
Sure.
about. And Matt, when he was in grad school, he was a Terra Sig guy, and excuse me. He was saying it was taking him. He was driving himself crazy trying to get a black Terra Sig. He said every time I made it, it was gray. And he said, then it dawned on me one day, I'm using a white ball clay. You know?
Right. Yeah.
And the worst part was I was sitting there and I just went, wow, dang it. You know?
Sort of embarrassing, right? Yeah.
Yes. I was like, how dumb is that? Just it's like, it's so funny. I love those moments when you see
Yeah.
somebody making something and you go, oh, duh. Like Jen Allen. I took a workshop with her and I watched her hand build, and there was about 6 times I was just like, well, gosh, that's brilliant, you know?
Yeah, like it seems obvious once you've seen it, but before that,
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
not
It
on.
makes you kind of angry that you didn't think about it.
For sure, yeah, I definitely get that too. Seeing
Like,
other people work,
yeah.
you know, even like, you know, Instagram, like getting to see people's reels or like, you know, images of process,
Yeah.
and you're flipping through it or watching it, and you go, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
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 It's really
I
great.
think that's a double-edged sword. You're right. Like, actually, I saw a little reel this morning of a guy talking about drawing on on Instagram, and you know he's sitting there drawing, and he's looking, and he would look over and see somebody that drew this amazing thing, and he's like, oh gosh, like over to the other side, and somebody drew something amazing. It could be dangerous when you. It just makes you feel like you're not making anything good when you see all this amazing stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely
You know?
understand that. I've definitely felt that as well. You know, I was watching.
Yeah. What am I?
I think it was while I was in undergrad. You know, I saw a video of this woman making an I Ching teapot, and I had no idea that they were like slab constructed. You know, I thought that they were like wheel thrown, and I remember just like thinking, "Oh my God, I'm so terrible. I should just stop making pots. Like I'm wasting my time."
Yeah. Yeah, and therein lies the bad part of social media. I mean, think about that for kids, you know?
Yeah.
Should not be looking at that. I've seen that video many times, I think. When they make it's that like mini teapot that they kind of use the wooden mallet to pound it out,
Yeah.
pound out the slabs. Yeah.
The slabs like
it's
so
beautiful.
thin, and then they like somehow turn
Yeah.
it into a sphere, and it's amazing. Yeah.
No, it's
Now I
it's
find it
crazy.
inspiring
And
to
I-
watch, but
Yeah, I
you have
watched
to have kind of the right
Andrea,
frame of mind.
Andrea O'Connell. I watched her hand build at Ensika last year, I think it was, or Richmond. Yep. And it's just amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But those are the people I love. Those are people I want to chat with. I reached out to
Totally.
Noel Bailey this morning. He makes great pots. I'm like, let's chat, you know. Most people
Yeah.
are up for it. A couple of people have ghosted me.
Sure.
I'm like, you could just say no. Just no, it's fine. Yeah. So I love on your pots. I kind of love your live rims, the rims of your mugs and stuff. How they're just pinched out and not really trying to be perfect with the rim. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I like the feel of your pots. It's it looks like you're having fun to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I am. I am
You're
sort of
trying.
like naturally like a little uptight as a person. You know, it's hard for me to like loosen up and make pots that are a little more on the loose side. That's just
Okay.
challenging for me. But I
that's
think
great.
that moving to hand building from throwing helped me get a little bit looser. You know, like the process itself sort of forced me to like lighten up a little bit.
When
And I think that was good.
When did you make that move? Because I was a wheel thrower forever. I mean, I actually threw a couple things on the wheel yesterday because I was sitting here thinking, I don't know what to make, so I just started throwing on the wheel. I love throwing on the wheel. That's fun. But
Yeah.
when did you make that transition? When did you say, I'm going to hand build?
Well, I like had my final semester in undergrad, and that was my senior exhibition. And by the time that I'd finished that senior exhibition, I was like, I feel like I need to make some big changes to my work, but had no idea what that would possibly look like. But I started teaching full-time right away out of undergrad. So for about 3 years, I was just focusing on teaching and then also just like living adult life and doing a lot of like big life adult things like buying a house and getting married and everything. That all, takes time, and we're like renovating this house as we're like trying to move into it. I was just kind of like thinking about pots and living with pots and kind of noticing how my collection and my interests had slowly changed over time. And while reflecting on all of that, I kind of realized how more and more of the works that I was drawn to and using on a daily basis, like they were stoneware, not porcelain, and a variety of them were hand built. Some of them had terra sigillata, which I'd never had any experience with in undergrad or like real exposure to. I know that I heard the word thrown around, but that was about the extent of it. Maybe somebody in the studio had kind of used some of it, but that just wasn't familiar to me. So I started spending a lot of time just like thinking and doing some sketching, a little bit of research about materials, and then I started just messing around in the studio, like throwing a bit and then combining some like slab work with it. And there was a bit of a like hangover from college where I was sort of marrying the things that I was doing in undergrad with some of the things that I'm kind of doing now. And then I sort of made I think a clean break at some point from those things that I was doing in undergrad. Like I let myself let those things go. I was having a little bit of a hard time with feeling like I was like wasting all of the things that I'd worked so hard to like develop skill wise. It was hard to let go of the wheel and say like, I'm going to make bad pots again because I don't know how to make pinch pots. But I like really wanted to. And yeah, I had to be okay with saying that, or acknowledging the fact that I wasn't throwing away the skills that I had developed, but I was just tabling them for now. I mean, who knows what I'll be doing in 5 years, 10 years. I might be back on the wheel. I don't know. I have a hard time imagining that now, but in undergrad, I would never have believed that I would be a hand builder someday.
Yeah,
That would have been
that's very interesting.
unreal to me.
I wrote down, I kind of, if you see me writing stuff down, I'm taking notes of stuff that I want to remember because like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
thoughts are fleeting these days.
Yeah.
I wrote down bad pots. I've talked about
Yeah.
that pretty much with almost every single guest I have, right? And if this is a podcast that potential potters are going to watch or new potters are going to watch, I think they need to understand, and I didn't get it when I was younger or working on pots or when I was new to pottery, that you're going to go through a phase where your pots are going to suck, right?
Yeah.
It's just
And I
hard
definitely
work.
wasn't okay with that in undergrad. And I think getting out of undergrad and having a like solo studio space / practice was very healthy for me because I didn't feel self-conscious about other people seeing what I was doing. Like I could make all these bad pots, and I was definitely like too aware that other people were around me. Like it would have been much better for me in undergrad to just say like, F it, I don't care like what other people think as I'm working or think of the pots that I'm making. I think I stunted some of my like growth as a potter in undergrad because of that. I was just very aware of other people's presence, and that impacted my practice.
Yeah, that's
So-
very interesting.
Yeah,
also
so
talk
now
a
it's
lot
like freeing to me.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and you have to go through that. I mean, I think as an artist, not just a potter,
Yeah.
right? It's like when I teach people golf, and they say, you
Sure.
make it look so easy. I say, I've been doing it for 45 years. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're going to have to spend some time in the trenches.
Yeah.
But what I touch on a little bit too is something that you just said that for me, I think my work changed significantly when I got my own space.
Yeah.
You were talking about like not being community studios are great. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're fun and they're good for people
Absolutely.
to learn and be with other people. I love community studios, and I think everyone should go to a community class and take a wheel throwing class or something. But when you
Or
can,
do a
for
workshop
me,
or
when I can,
something.
like, yeah, when I can just leave my stuff everywhere, like leave my tools mid process and go do something and come back and or especially the whole drying process. I heard somebody say one time that all ceramics is moisture management,
That's true.
right?
Yeah,
If you can control how
I like
fast
that.
it dries, you win. Speaking of which, if you hear clicking, I'm force drying pots in the kiln right now.
Nice, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's like it stays about 55 degrees in my studio, which is downstairs in my house, but stuff just dries so slow in the winter. You notice that?
It dries slow in the winter?
Slow, yeah. Slowly, yeah.
Well, so my studio is my two-car garage that we converted to my studio space, and then we replaced the garage doors with these like garage doors that have a bunch of windows in them. So I get a lot of natural light.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it does get dry in here because like the humidifier from the house doesn't reach this space. But it doesn't get like crazy dry or anything. I would say that for me, like in the summer, things are a little slower to dry.
Really?
Like with the higher humidity. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how that is up here. I feel like the clay just stays cold for me. Like I can't get stuff to dry. I made a big pitcher yesterday here. Messing around, speaking of oh, come on. This big slab built thing I made yesterday. I was kind of having fun.
And you were having a
Tall
hard time
sucker.
getting that to dry for you?
Yeah, I mean, and I got a couple of pieces that I threw on the wheel, and for me, it's like I want to get. I hate firing the kiln when it's half full.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, as soon as we're done today, I got to go buy new relays. I'm gonna change those relays before they go on me. What kiln do
Yeah.
you use?
I've got a Bailey, and I really,
Okay,
really,
yep.
really love this kiln. This amazing kiln.
Is it a front loader?
It's a top loader, but it's got that like hinged back lid.
Yeah.
I used scuts all through like teaching. Like all of my classrooms had scuts. And those are, it's an electric kiln. It works. It's great. Everything's awesome. But there's something really nice. Like I'm not that tall. I'm not short, but like I'm not that tall. So it's nice to not have to like get up on my tippy toes to get a lid to latch. So this
Yeah.
swings back and it's just like, oh, that's so nice. And there's just like a little extra layer of insulation on this kiln compared to the scuts that I had and in my classroom. And I don't know, I'm in love with this kiln. It's really, really great.
I was thinking about that sort of issue yesterday when I was making this big 35-pound thing. I said, how am I going to get that in the kiln? I'm going to have to build up the shelves and put it to the middle because I won't be able to reach the bottom. But I was thinking I might have to put a handle, like cut a handle out so I can hold it. But
Yeah.
so what clay do you use? Do you make your own clay? Do you buy your clay?
I buy my clay. Yeah. I made a lot of clay in undergrad for a couple years there, and that was really cool, but I'm perfectly happy not to
It's
do
a lot of
that.
work.
And yeah, and I just don't have any sort of clay mixer or, pug mill
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm just gonna farm that. I'm gonna farm that out. But I buy standard brand clay, and specifically
Yep.
I use the dark brown Umbria 266, and I fire it to cone 5. I was at 4, and then I decided to just bump it up to 5, just
Okay.
just because of the glaze I wanted to use in the interiors.
Yeah, do you use a liner glaze?
Yeah, got it off a digital fire. It's really,
Okay,
really
yep.
simple.
Yeah, it's funny. I had a white that I was using for a couple of years. I got from Clayscapes. I used to mix my own as well. I bought one and I said, "Geez, that works pretty good."
Yeah.
And it's funny. I kept trying to do things to make it whiter, make it a little more opaque, and then I was up in Syracuse the other day, and I stopped by Clayscapes, and I said, "Well, let me try this other white you have." And I bought 20 pounds of powdered form dry white, and I was like, "Oh, there's what I was trying to get for a couple of years."
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah.
Darn it. Speaking of which, I started putting a little bit of Zercopax in my SIG.
You do.
Because my red art kind of bleeds through everything, as you can see. Like sometimes I'll put a coat of white on everything first, just as a like a primer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just kind of bleeds through, and I don't want to see the brush marks really too
Sure.
much. Sometimes I do. So your Sige, I noticed. You know what I messed around with the other day and didn't work, and I actually just mixed more up this morning. Is a borax wash. It didn't do anything to mine. So I just added a big chunk of borax, and we're going to try it again. You borax wash, correct?
I do, and I love it. Yeah.
I love it.
I do. It's
Go ahead.
like it's such a great way to add some variety to or variation to the surface. You know, it sort of
Yes.
is a faux atmospheric look. You know, occasionally I'll have people ask me like, "Are these wood fired? Or are these like soda fired?" Like,
Yeah.
you know, just at a quick glance, they don't necessarily scream electric.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love surface variation. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love terra Sige and hand building. I'm not a big fan of plain exteriors. I want it to look like it's moving.
Yeah.
Do you put any lithium in your borax, or is it just straight borax?
No, it's just borax and water, but one thing I do is I have two separate containers with borax and water. And the first one I have a hot plate and like a old pot sitting on it, so I dissolve borax and water so that it just looks like
Yep.
a clear liquid, and then I'll have the container sitting next to it that's just like room temperature water and borax, and I'll brush the dissolved borax on first, and I'll know it's about the right ratio of water to borax when I can see a fairly thin film, like a white film will appear on the pots after after the pot's dries pretty quick. And then once that's right, then I'll brush some of the crystals from the room temperature water and borax on there so that I can get the little like tiny speckling melting spots, but then I also get that like really thin layer of glaze essentially that some of my pots, it's more obvious than others, but I do wax resist. I don't know if you can kind of see like the
I
lighter
did see
targets there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious right on this top part. But
So that's a wax resist before the borax.
yes. Yeah. So that's like, the borax dissolved stuff kind of soaks in a little bit and makes those, visible. And then the speckling on here, like those shiny kind of spots, that's from the borax crystals themselves that get brushed on. So I break that process up into 2 steps to get the results that I want.
It's funny. I had a friend send me a video the other day about a lady doing a borax wash, and she said, "Have you seen this?" And I said, "Yeah, I got a buddy that does that on the lips of his pots." And I said, I haven't thought about that in a while. So I was like, let me try that. And now I'm just going down that rabbit hole again. So I'm happy to hear from a person that uses it more often how to go about it.
Yeah. Do you have Rhonda Willer's book on terra sigillata?
Yeah, it's right there. I was reading it this morning. Yeah.
Good. Yes. Yeah. Her book is amazing. Like,
It really is.
almost everything I learned about terra sigillata came from that book. I tell everybody to buy it all the time. I just think it's such a great tool.
100%. I actually taught a workshop on terra sigillata for frankarts.com.
Cool. Yeah.
It was called Terra Sigillata the easy way, right? And I started the workshop off by saying, this is how I get my surfaces. And it's not the right way. If you want to do it the right way, buy this book, right?
Yeah.
It's like I do it the slap happy way that kind of comes out the way I like my pots. There's a million different ways to do terra Sige. And I think terra Sige is also, people are afraid of it for some reason. It's not that hard to make.
No, it's not. I think there's just a couple things, like a couple troubleshooting things that once you understand, like, if you try to make terra Sige and like it clearly isn't terra Sige, there are really only a couple of things that could have gone wrong. And, it's usually pretty easy to like correct it and not waste any material.
Mm-hmm.
But you just
what
have
are
to
those
understand
things that could have
things.
gone wrong?
If you siphon out too much, ended up siphoning up some of the sludge on accident, then, so then, like, that's one thing that could go wrong. Another would be to not add enough deflocculant to it, or if you didn't let it settle out long enough, or if you like accidentally disrupted the sludge at the bottom and some of that moved up into your actual like terracage that you want. Like those are really kind of the things that could go wrong. And so you just have to be really aware of like what you're doing and then, be able to narrow it down and say like, okay, I didn't siphon too low. I didn't disrupt the sludge. I did wait 24 hours. So maybe I just need to add some more sodium silicate, remix this and come back. And I know I've experienced that because, I bought a container of sodium silicate and it lasts forever. And what I mean by that is like you only use a little bit at a time. But one thing I did learn is that sodium silicate does lose its potency over time. So, the recipe calls for like 2 tablespoons or something. But now I've found that I have to use more like 4 tablespoons. So I, for a little bit there, was getting frustrated because I was like, I'm not changing what I'm doing. Why is this not yielding the terracage I want? And, one way or another, I stumbled across that, added a little bit more sodium silicate, and boom, everything's great again.
That's very interesting. So even in a sealed container, the sodium silicate loses its potency over a while?
Yeah, I mean, like I broke the seal opening it or like peeling the thing off the top. Like I screw it closed, but it's not sealed. And I've had this container now for
I've seen it turn into
I think 4 years.
I've seen it turn into like a gummy substance.
Yeah. I have not experienced that yet. If it started getting like too janky or anything, I would just go ahead and buy some more, but
janky, I love that word. When I learned actually, do you know Tommy Frank from Frank Arts?
I don't believe so.
I think he used to be he was like the studio manager at Belger Crane Arts for a while, I think. He has a website where he does workshops online. But
sure.
Chatting with him, talking about terracid before I taught this workshop, you hear those things like you said, you're like, sodium silicate loses its potency. Duh, you don't know. And then you just, that was easy. But we were talking about, like I was just talking about you, about making black terracid with red art.
Yeah.
And he said to me, well, actually, for red clays, you should use Darvan 811. And I said, huh? Yeah, it works way better with red clays, apparently. So that's what I've been doing ever since.
Interesting.
Who knew?
I haven't had any issue with using sodium silicate, but that's good to know. Like, that's not something that I've heard.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try
that. That actually makes me want to look that up in Rhonda's book.
Right, and see if it's in there.
Oops.
It definitely could be. There's enough information in there that, like, I've read through things and flipped through it a bunch of times and still only know, like, just a little bit.
Yeah. And that's a tribute to terracid, about how deep you can really go and how many variations you can play with.
Yeah. And different firing temperatures and atmospheres, and I mean, it can do a lot.
Yeah. Well, I learned we were talking about earlier, like just experimenting. Like I was trying to get my white to be whiter. I wanted it to be like a bright white.
Yeah.
Because for me, OM4 was a little bit too, the color, the body would bleed through a little bit. So I switched to Sagar clay.
Sure.
Which actually comes out a little bit thicker. I kind of call it a terra slidge, like it's bordering on slip.
Huh. Interesting. I haven't.
But
I
did a little bit of. I put some tin ox in it, trying to get that to be whiter, and it kind of turned it yellow. Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I looked through Rhonda Willer's book, and then she's like, "Oh, you can use this to make it a little bit more yellow, and you can use this to make it a little bit more peach." And I was like, "Oh, probably should have read that before I put that on there."
Right? Oh, that would have saved me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, couple pots.
That's all right. It might be a happy accident, right?
So yes, well, that's, I can't tell you how much I've learned through happy accidents. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. And that's the fun part of opening a kiln, is you go, oh wow, look at that. Oops.
Yeah, even if you don't get the results you want, you learn something.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's what smash piles are for, right?
Yeah, or holding onto a pot and like keeping it in a dark corner of the studio and then like looking at it in a few years or months or something and being like, oh, maybe that has a new application or
Yeah. I threw away a whole shelf full of pots the other day. My wife was very upset, and I said they were junk. I need the shelf space.
Yeah, yeah.
She said you got to ask me before you do these things.
Like, I don't want these around.
I got a glaze from a buddy of mine. No, they were, and it's funny. People say, "Geez, you want to put stuff out? Why don't you put these up at or sell these at my cafe or something?" I'm like, "Well, those are seconds, and I don't really want those out there."
Totally. I get that.
Yeah. I'm actually hoarding pots right now. I was going to ship some down to Charlie Cummings, and I got invited to be at the Flower City Pottery Invitational this year or next
Awesome.
year.
I think I saw you post something about that
So
on
I'm
social
pretty
media,
excited.
maybe. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked about that. That's a good show, and it's pretty cool because it's a show that I used to love to go to when I was first making pots. So to be a part of it is kind of pretty cool to come full circle with my ceramics.
For sure.
Have you experienced a few of those? Like you said something about Ceramics Monthly, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
you ever
getting
experienced that? Where you're
into
like, I
that
can't
was
believe I'm here because I.
yeah, yeah. I mean, seeing your pots in print is really surreal to like open up a magazine and see it there in your hands and know that
Yeah,
other people are flipping through and seeing your work for the first time. Like that's totally surreal.
yeah.
And then last year, I was a guest on the St. Croix Pottery Tour at Jeff Astrike's, and that was like the most surreal thing that's ever happened. That's like a bucket list item for me. And I was like, well, I guess I can die now. Like, that was something I didn't think would necessarily ever happen, but was something that I hoped for someday, and for it to happen like this soon. It was another one of those moments where I was like,
Yeah.
is this a mistake?
That's
Like I was waiting for the offer to be rescinded because I was like, are you sure?
yeah. You spell my name right in the email. Are you sure?
Right.
Oh, I got my dog in. She's
Yeah.
like, come on, Poppy. She's old and she can't get down the stairs anymore, so she walks around the house and comes to the back door and just scratches on the
Aw.
door until I let her in. She's a good old girl. We got two. You got any pets? You got dogs and cats? Like I said, you like my message? I said we can just talk about cats the whole time.
I did because I have two cats. I was like, that would be great. I would love to just talk about my cats. Yeah,
We have two cats as well. Two cats, two dogs.
that's a lot. That's
One of my
almost
cats, no
everything.
joke, Kate, is 19 pounds.
19. Wow, that's a chunk. That's a big cat.
Yeah, she's a big girl or a big boy.
It's a
Uh,
oh, it's a
his
boy.
belly kind of wiggles back and forth as he walks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got that primordial pouch going on.
Oh yeah, he's a big dude. And then he sits on my belly, and I'm like, you're getting. It's like I told my wife, so it's like having a bag of potatoes on my stomach. He's so heavy.
Yeah.
You got me thinking Crocus Martis here, so I pulled out. That's what this bowl is going to be, Crocus Martis ish.
Nice.
So where do you sell mostly? I notice you're in a couple of real good galleries. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Working with like Schaller and Clea Carr are pretty recent. Recent relationships for me. So, those have been just amazing and like so cool to get to be a part of, those galleries and have work sitting
Yeah,
alongside
those
these
are good
people
ones.
that I've, kind of worshipped for a few years. Like it's really kind of amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny
but
you say that.
primarily,
I just taught a workshop at Aramont.
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, like, primarily I sell
You go
in
first. We have a
person,
little
so
time delay.
art festivals and like
Okay.
pottery tours and things like that is the majority. And then, I
Okay.
do quite a few sales with galleries and then a little bit of online sales as well for my website.
I was gonna say, how do you do online?
Yeah, I've got a website and upload things to it and try to now I'm making more of an effort to try to keep some work in there always. Last year
Mm-hmm.
I kind of felt like I had to always take everything that I had in inventory because I just didn't have enough in stock to leave stuff behind in my studio, and I'm not willing to like travel with pots that are in my online store just because I'm afraid I'm gonna like sell them in person and then not take them off of my website, and then somebody would buy them and I would feel horrible.
Yeah.
Trying to like handle that. So I've got like a shelf in my studio that it's like these are the pots that are in my online store, and I've got like blue tape on them to remind me that like don't touch these don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
I've done
yeah,
that.
like
I feel terrible when I do that too. I'm like, sorry, I just sold that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm too afraid of that happening, so I told myself these stay here.
Galleries are great. It's kind of tough. I was talking to Wes Brown about this the other day. The galleries do the work and they do all sorts of marketing, and it's great, and it's really good to be a part of some of those great galleries. But for instance, I have a bowl up there. It's a big giant serving dish that I would probably sell for $250. If I'm going to send it down to a gallery, they're going to get $125, and it's going to cost me $50 to ship it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll make $70 off of a $200 bowl. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess.
Definitely.
Oh, I was going to tell you, speaking of being next to some of the greats that you love and how mind-blowing that is, right? So I just taught a workshop at Aramont. And have you been to Aramont?
I was actually just talking to somebody about this. I haven't been there, but I went to Gatlinburg on a trip with my family. Like my parents planned this whole trip, and I was just kind of along for the ride. Like it was their whole thing. They wanted to get all of us kids together, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I've got enough going on. I'm going to do my stuff, and I'm just going to like show up, and I'll be there, and it'll be like really wonderful family time. And we were like on these ski lifts going down the mountain there, and I remember looking down with my husband. We were sitting next to each other. He double majored just like I did, so we talk pots all the time. But we were looking down and we were like, that looks like a kiln. What is that? What is this place? And it was like really, really embarrassing to, like admit that we were literally on top of Aramont and had no idea that was there. So then we snuck.
That's hilarious.
Onto the campus there and like went and saw like an exhibition that was up. And that's the only time that I've been there. So it wasn't real, but like I've been there.
That's very cool. Gatlinburg is a surreal place, isn't it?
Well, that's what like seems so weird. It's like it feels so touristy. Like it seems so out of place for like a school of craft to be there, but it's really cool. Like I like sort of the disconnect between those things.
Yeah. I call it the eye of the storm. Right? I remember when I first went there, I was driving there at night, and you can't, if you're driving through town, you can't see the entrance unless you know where it is, because the sign is about 2 foot by 2 foot.
Yeah.
And I was in a rental car, and I was talking to my wife on the phone, and there's a million people, and I said, I must have made a wrong turn. This is not right.
Yeah.
There's
no way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's a wonderful place. So when you teach a workshop at Aramont, you get to put a piece of your pottery up on the boneyard, along the wall.
Cool.
And I went to Alfred, but I was not a ceramics student at Alfred. I was a liberal arts major, and Val Cushing was my buddy's dad. He was a super famous guy, and I just knew him as Val. He was just a buddy.
Yeah.
Which was cool. So one of his pieces was up in the boneyard, and I said to the kid, Sam, that runs the studio, I said, hey, can I put my piece up there next to his? He said, yeah, you put it anywhere you want. So now I have a piece up on the boneyard next to Val Cushing, which is mind-blowing to me.
That's cool, yeah.
Isn't that nuts? And it'll be there for eternity, which is
That's
cool.
a good feeling.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, especially for like a self-taught potter, right? I learned, I was talking to Wes Brown about this the other day, I learned by watching Simon Leach. You know Simon Leach, the YouTube guy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Well, Leach pottery. I
Yeah.
mean, I think his grandfather is it John Leach, was the father of what would you say, functional pottery, I guess.
Yeah, Bernard Leach.
I just watched his videos over and over again and threw on the wheel because I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you about. Have you tried any of that liquid quartz yet? What's your thoughts on that?
was just talking about that to somebody too. It scares me. I haven't used it. I know some people that do, and they swear by it and they think it's great, but it just scares me. Like to spray something on a surface that's meant to be eaten off of, you know, that's not getting like refired. Like
I'll use it on exteriors. I don't trust it yet. For it says on their website it's food safe, and I was like, I don't trust it.
Yeah. Like you say that, and that might be the case, but like, you know, it just like doesn't seem. It's
yeah.
like
Prove it.
I believe that they think that it is, but like my brain's like, how could it be that way?
Yeah,
that's too good to be true. Yeah, so
it is too good to be true. So I'll use it on exteriors. I won't put it on a food surface. I'll just use it to keep the stuff stain free, the terra sig from being stained.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like the borax wash.
I actually tested.
Kind of does that.
Yep. Yeah. I would much rather borax wash, to tell you the truth. So I'm excited to be experimenting with that right now. I actually messaged Rose from the clay, and Matt and Rose, and said, "Tell me what you think of this." And she said it's meant to seal countertops. So Rose and Matt are pretty smart people.
Yeah.
Rose and I worked together at a tile factory 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, it was fun.
Cool.
We made all the tile for Starbucks. So every time you go into a Starbucks and you see that really cool green like subway tile, yeah, we made that. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was like we had to have 1,500 square feet of whatever color they wanted ready to go at any moment. You didn't want to make Starbucks wait.
Yeah. Wow.
Apparently.
Apparently.
Yeah. You know, and it was funny because then the bosses would be like, "Hey, you have to. How come this job's not done yet?" I said, "Well, who do you want to wait? We only have one kiln. Like, you can only fire one thing at a time. Somebody's going to wait, you know."
You can only move clay so fast.
Yeah, and then they would get mad at me. I said, "Well, you tell me which one you want me to pull out of the kiln so I can finish Starbucks, right?"
Yeah.
But so, do you have any cool? Do you collect? You have a collection, like a mug collection? You collect pots?
My husband and I own quite a few pots. Yeah. Most of them are, you know, like daily use pots, so they're in our cabinets and get used regularly. But then we do have some more like kind of display pots that we have in some glass cases because we have cats, you know.
Cool. Yeah. Yep. And they just push stuff off shelves.
Yeah, our current cats are pretty good about that stuff, but you know, accidents happen and I don't want to be mad at my cat. And
have you seen that cartoon where it's like a cat throws a vase on a wheel and then he fires it and then he puts it on a shelf and he goes bing and pushes it off the shelf?
I like that.
Yeah. I actually think I saw a piece of yours in Bill Griffith's collection down at Aramont. Speaking of Aramont, I think Bill has a piece. I believe so.
That'd be cool.
I don't know. I was overwhelmed with his collection. I went to his house. I think it's like a rite of passage when you're teaching at Aramont that you have to go have coffee with Bill. Bill's a very cool guy and a good potter.
Yeah.
His collection was just mind-blowing.
I believe it.
Yeah, he had a mug wall that, you know, we were making coffee and he says, "Pick a mug." And I said, "For a potter, that's an impossible task. How could you ask me that?"
Yeah. You're gonna have to just close your eyes and grab one because otherwise you'll be there all day.
Yeah. I think I used one of Sunshine Cobb's. Actually, that's kind of what got me into terra sig as well, because I was never a big fan of like shiny glazy pieces. Mm-hmm. And
I always like the combination of
Sunshine Cobb's
matte gloss.
Huh? Well, she always had these matte surfaces because she would sandblast them. Did you know that's what she does?
Yeah, I did learn that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I don't want to buy a sandblaster.
Yeah.
Now we're getting crazy. So I figured I could achieve that kind of matte colored surface with terra sig. So that's where I still doing it.
Yep.
But now I'm back to messing around with a plain white glaze. Did you see those F this mugs that I made?
Yeah. That's really fun.
Those things sold like, they're so silly and they sold like nuts. I call them morning mugs.
Yeah, well, and especially like right now, you know, with everything going on, feels appropriate.
Oh my God, that's a whole nother story.
Yep.
You know, I turned on the news this morning, not to get into it, but I turned on the news this morning and just laughed a little bit and turned it back off. It's too
Yep.
bad. Well,
Like, that's about all you can do.
nope. Put your head down and hang on. So, yeah, right. We've done it before. So tell me about anything you got coming up. Let's talk about where, before we close, let's talk about where, because we're almost at an hour already. Wow. Oh my gosh. Tell us where we can find your work, and you got any shows coming up? Are you going to Ensika?
I am, yeah. Yeah, I'm actually starting to get really excited for it now. Like, it's getting close enough that I'm, like, buzzing a little bit, like, thinking about all the people I get to get together with on the annual Ensika, hangout. And I'll be selling work at the Pot Stars pop-up shop sale on Thursday evening/night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. Driving out there with a couple other potters from Wisconsin that are in that same sale. So looking forward to that.
Man, that sounds like a great road trip.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah. And then I
seems
am,
like the pop-ups are kind of taking over.
yeah, they're kind of a big part of it now, it seems like.
Yeah, and they're fun. And they're always at a brewery, right?
Yeah, I think that's where I first actually said hi to you. I think you came by, if I'm not mistaken. I think you came by our pop-up sale and it was
yep.
just bonkers, and you said hi to me, and I remember being like hi and wanting to get a chance to talk to you, but just it was insane. There was just so many people.
That's too funny. That's exactly what I said to Meg Callie on Monday.
Yeah.
I said, I've been wanting to talk to you ever since I tried to talk to you at that pop-up, and it was impossible.
Yep, because she's at the same one.
Yep. And was Tony Young there as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I went over to him. Him and I did a couple of collaboration pieces together, and I was like, dude, what's up? And he's like, I can't talk right now. He was surrounded by people.
Uh-huh.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, hopefully
Well,
it's
I'm glad we
getting this
finally
year.
got a chance to catch up. I'm going to have to jump online and get one of your mugs. I want one.
Yeah. Are you going to Ensika?
I just sent a mug to, I'm still trying to decide. I live in New York, so a flight's pretty expensive. And I don't know. Last year I did a demo actually for Aramont, so I had a real reason to go.
Cool, yeah.
I might, just for the fun of it, just to say hi to everybody. That's the best part.
Yeah, it is. I love seeing everyone. Meeting new people.
It was fun. Yeah, and you said how kind of surreal it is to be next to people's pots, and it was really weird for me to walk around in Sika and have people go, "Hey, you're Mike Griffin." I was like,
Yeah.
what did I do?
I know. I felt like a really minor
Yeah.
celebrity for a few moments during last year's Ensika. Like I had this
Yeah.
gal do this
Very much.
double
Yeah, yeah.
take in an elevator, and I just I was like, me? Like you're
Yeah.
looking at me?
Yeah, yeah. What I do? One girl came over and she said, "Oh my God, you're Mike Griffin. I learned so much from your videos, and thank you." And she said, "Can I take a picture with you?" I said, "Well, sure." And I told my wife that. She goes, "That's the last thing you need." It's too funny. Leave it up to family to keep you on your toes, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, if I do go to Ensika, I will find you and say hi.
Yeah, please do.
So we got your website. We got a couple of cool galleries to find your work. You're pretty active on Instagram, which is very cool.
Try to be up.
You got to leave us with one good tip. You going to give us a clay tip, or you going to give us a life tip? What do you got?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and bring us
one.
back to sort of a conversation that we had right away. If you're not happy with your work, get comfortable making bad pots, experimenting a ton and, not even necessarily planning to keep what you're making. You can reclaim that clay and keep making that same chunk of clay into bad pots over and over and over again until you stumble onto some things that you think are worth pursuing, in a different manner. So I think I could have really used that recommendation when I was an undergrad. I don't know that I would have heard that. I think I kind of had my blinders on a little bit for how I thought I should be as a maker, but that was really refreshing for me. Yeah, to force myself to do that and be excited about
that's
it.
a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a good one, and I think I think every beginning potter or even successful potter needs to remember that they're not all going to be good, and it takes work and it takes time for your pots to get to where you want them. You know,
Yeah. And if you're
so
no longer
put in the
interested
time,
in what
your
you're
pots will get
doing,
better, right?
yeah, and if you're no longer interested in what you're doing, even if you're like making successful work, like you should make changes. It's like it's okay to move away from things that people like if you're not interested in them anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, switch it up. When I at Aramont there, I would do demos every day for my class, and then I'd make a butter dish or something, and then I would just squish it, and they would all go, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "It's fine. It's clay. Reclaim it and make another one. It's okay."
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
all right, Miss Kate, I super appreciate your time today. I love your pots. I love your work, and I look forward to meeting you again. And
Yeah, absolutely.
thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having
Very
me.
cool. Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Bye.